Even for individual farmers, they have been taught, because they're not guided by brahmanas. They're guided by people who are, wanting profit, who want to extract, who want to exploit. So we are exploiting Mother Nature, Mother Bhumi, to such an extent that we depend actually on Mother Nature for our survival. We depend on Mother Nature for our cloth. But now most of the cloth, the whole textile industry, which is the second most polluting industry on the planet, is actually very detrimental. And we don't even think about it, we don't even know. Because most of the cloth that we wear is not natural cloth, it is synthetic. So anything that we do, anything that we say, anything that we think which is not natural, which is not, let's say, pure and original, is polluting. So we become so polluted in all different levels that we're totally unaware that how covered and how polluted. So therefore, we have to link all of this with the basic concept of dharma, because it's all directly connected with dharma. Dharma means what is meant to be, or what is natural and original, isn't it? The dharma of the soul is to be engaged in Krishna's service. That's the original, natural duty, occupation of the soul. Similarly, there is, on the level of this body or the material energy, a more simple and natural way of doing things, of living. Mother Nature, isn't it? Now we are exploiting heavily Mother Nature, and the whole planet is actually in major crisis. More and more volcano eruptions are taking place than ever before. The whole planet is going. It's like it's like when someone doesn't. It's a fever very often. Fever is a sign of disease, not normal condition. Normal condition is temperatures at, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. But disease condition means fever and other symptoms. So the planet right now is actually boiling. There's different examples and whatnot of this. It's one of the great concerns also of scientists who cannot understand. Well, we should, as devotees, we understand why the planet is going transformations, because we're abusing.
Yes.
We're exploiting Mother Nature, and she's not happy, obviously. Same thing is that if we do that to a child or to anyone, they'll become disturbed. They'll become diseased. So, see, this is a whole dimension that is unfortunately very much missing or lacking in our consciousness as devotees. We tend to think of dharma and what is important in life is just to, we say, practice Krishna consciousness, chant the holy name, come to the temple, distribute books, and all of the different activities that we're doing. But we're failing to understand this whole other dimension in terms of how what is happening to other living entities, like the cows, because that is meant to be, as Prabhupada explains, in the light of the Bhagavat. Who has read this book, The Light of the Bhagavat? Who knows about this book? Yeah. Very important book that Prabhupada wrote actually before going to the Western countries, I think in the early 60s. In that letter, the Bhagavat, which is very inspiring actually, Prabhupada makes a number of important statements. One of the foremost statements he makes is that those who are serious to address the ills and the problems of modern day society, those who are actually serious, they must to proper care and protection of cows. Because we're not understanding, when we say Vedic culture is an agrarian culture in the Vedic term, Vedic understanding, means the center are cows. You cannot have agriculture without cows. That is one of the major defects of modern day society. We are doing away with cows. We're doing away with bulls because we have machine. This is like short-sightedness. That is the disease of people who are not Krishna conscious. They Shreya and Preya, right? That is described. We are simply what so-called immediate benefits, not knowing and understanding is actually meant to be the long-term benefit. Prabhupada gives the example. It's like a child wants to play. He likes to play, but when he's young, because actually going to school, that's for long-term benefit. Playing, okay, he'll get some kind of whatever, happiness doing that. The long-term happiness is in life if one is properly educated, etc. So when we are lacking in proper consciousness, when we're lacking in Krishna consciousness, when we're lacking in understanding the basic concepts and principles that are described not only in terms of spiritual emancipation, not simply in terms of spiritual knowledge, but also very important to understand the workings of material nature. Not for the purpose of exploiting material nature as it is happening in the world today, but for the purpose of living more in harmony with ourselves, like in Ayurvedic medicine is teaching us how to properly care for the body so that we can properly execute our primary goal and purpose of life, which is to advance in Krishna consciousness. The whole Vedic culture also, when we live, coming back to simple living, when we live this more simple lifestyle based on the prescribed duties as mentioned in the Shastra, then more easily, the same thing we were reading, no? I was pointing this out just yesterday. And I think here also, 1:9:26, just right away came to it. Remember I was reading about Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj. I mean, Bhishmadev instructing Yudhiṣṭhira Maharaj. That this is connected with simple living. The conception of 4 castes and 4 orders of life means Vedic culture in terms of varnashram. When we know and understand the underlying principles that are there for this system to function at its best. So the conception of 4 castes and 4 orders of life as planned by the Lord himself, Bhagavad Gita 4:13, is to accelerate transcendental qualities in the individual person. when we agree, when we know and understand, properly understand, and live. See, that's the whole that is the difference between Jnanam and Vijnanam. Vijnanam means applying the Gyan, applying the knowledge. So in other words, living according to those prescribed duties, following and establishing varnashrama is a very important part of Vijnanam. Understanding that when we live as it is prescribed in the Shastra, then we will be closer to what is more natural, to what is more original. What is more natural is that human beings in society, that's Krishna's arrangement, live closely with cows because the cows are in the mode of goodness. When we associate with someone who's in the mode of goodness, we tend to become more situated in the mode of goodness. There's that expression in English, tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are. If you're hanging around with drunkards and whatnot, then there's a good chances you, unless you're a very strong preacher. You know. So our association. So yeah, our association determines how we develop in terms of consciousness. So we are meant to associate with Mother Earth. We're meant to associate with the cows. We're meant to associate with brahmanas. It's Vedic culture. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha Vigat Hitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. When we present all kinds of excuses why this is not possible, it means that we are being tricked actually by Maya to not come to the mode of goodness and beyond. So, yeah, here the three qualities of Gandhari, Mataji, are being pointed out by Srila Prabhupada. That is the definition also, primary definition in Canto, that women, we hear how in the Vedic culture all women are meant to be married. There may be some exceptions, but in general, all women are meant to be married, which is not the same standard for men. Men, if they can remain brahmacharis, that is desirable, that is good. So it's not an injunction. It's not the same injunction for men and women. So Nārada Muni explains, which is what Prabhupada is outlining here, how the primary duty and responsibility of a woman is to become an ideal mother and to become an ideal wife. And that is only possible when we agree to live what we call the Vedic way. And the Vedic way means within Varnashram system. Varnashram system means being connected with with a mode of life that is more naturally in the mode of goodness. So like this, there are many. When we read and hear from Bhagavatam, then these points they come up again and again actually, and we need to hear it and meditate upon it and discuss these topics so that there can be more clarity, so that we can understand what we should be doing, what lifestyle we should be adopting, etc. So yes, eventually when Vedic culture again becomes reestablished, women will not need to be initiated. Uh-huh. And to me, when I was giving that example of this one disciple, I found that, well, she's quite advanced. She understands that, well, I'm being taken care of by my husband. I don't, he's instructing me.
The Supreme Lord also.
Huh?
He is a representation of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
Maharaj,
Uh,
so, Prabhuji, I wanted to understand, assuming the Vedic culture was in full-fledged, in the full potential in the society, we know all these things are the byproducts, the happiness and other things from the land.
yeah.
But now
Opulence.
now we see that and two, three of our generations are already destroyed. Like my father, grandfather living in cities, we are already polluted with a lot of things. So if there was a transition, if a person was, into Krishna consciousness, he understands a few of the scriptures, he decides, okay, let me go back to, back to Vedic. What would be the his mode for him to, transition to the Vedic, maybe societies, or what is it possible that we can, advise a person like that?
What can we advise a
Yeah,
person?
who is interested to transit from the
Right.
normal city life, if he
Yeah, yeah,
wants to
yeah.
shift,
Yeah.
how should he manage his personal, let us say, family members, or the
Hey,
or his living.
that's following the rules.
So how can he, or I would say, put it in more simpler, of already the broken things.
Yes, yes. Uh, Definitely, it is a very good question, a very important one as well, because uh, more and more of our devotees need to seriously consider this uh, proposition and actually it's a direct instruction that Prabhupada has given. uh, there are actually within the ministry that we have here in India, we have formulated some guidelines in that respect, and one needs to uh, one needs to prepare oneself in many ways to uh, to make such type of transition. We should know to begin with that to make such kind of a transition is welcome and also needed, isn't it? Uh, because the more we understand that actually this is meant to be the norm, uh, the more we understand how when we live in the recommended way, as described, that will help us to advance in Krishna consciousness, then we should strive to actually make that happen. So, there are a number of things. We recommend, for example, that devotees who are, because that's the present situation, majority of our householders are in cities, urban areas. They need to come together um, and start reading about the subject matter, understanding it. So there's some specific references are there, like one of the important books where the major instructions given by Srila Prabhupada have been compiled. This book, speaking about Varnasam, is a very important book. So since many years, actually, we've been advising, recommending that people form what is called, Varnashram research teams. They come together, they read this book, they discuss, and they take up different projects that are in relation to the long-term goal of making this kind of transition. So they need one of the most important things, which, if it is not there, it will not be successful. We need to have the basic philosophical understanding, because without that, at some point, because there will be challenges, uh, major challenges in the opposite direction. So that's one level. Uh, as they meet together, as they discuss, then they will begin to understand the need to develop certain skills. Just like we live in the cities, we work for this company, that company, we have to learn skills, So unfortunately, we are learning what is not natural skills, but we need to go back and learn what is more natural, which are connected with the land, which are connected with cows. So that that can be done in different ways. There are people, there are devotees and also non-devotees who have been cultivating this understanding and who have developed different skills, different knowledge. So we need to get in contact with such persons. We need to visit and maybe in communities that where individuals this lifestyle, even though it may not be at the perfectional stage. There are communities, both in terms of devotee communities, there are groups, there are organizations. One came in contact with quite some time back. What is it? GEN, GEN. You can look it up actually. Global Eco Network. Globally, they're over 50 years. They've been promoting what is called eco living, simple living. They have conferences yearly. Things became, during COVID, it was somewhat interrupted, but as a matter of fact, they had a conference in Krishna Valley in Hungary some years back, and they were very impressed by what the devotees were doing there, under the guidance of Sridham Maharaj. And as a matter of fact, they asked some of the devotees who were prominent and prominent leaders there to be part of the global network, which our devotees did. I don't know the situation now. So what I'm saying is that we need to train ourselves in what is meant to be the more natural way of doing. Now, within our ISKCON society, we are unfortunately not there, but that kind of awareness or consciousness ought to be introduced, because it is very much the responsibility. As a matter of fact, we read this in the beginning of this book, speaking about Varnashram, that the purpose of establishing temples, when Prabhupada is, that was one of the 4 phases that he describes in Gita Nagari essay. One of the purposes of establishing temples in cities was to actually bring people to Krishna consciousness, but it was meant to happen in 2 ways. It only happened in one. The 2 ways it was meant to happen was, number 1, to train individuals to be involved in city preaching, whether it's book distribution, Harinam, or developing the congregation. So that's one level. It means getting people to actually being committed to the mission. The other level, the other aspect has been neglected, has been maybe never even properly understood. The other level is that those who will not be able to be active in frontline preaching in the cities, they should be trained, they should be taught how to return to living. They should be gradually introduced to what is meant to be the norm, means village life. In the Western world, villages practically are gone. 95% of the population live in urban centers, live in cities. So they have farms. So Prabhupada started farm communities because that was the closest to villages. Villages is a norm actually in Vedic culture. There are in the Shastra so many guidelines, so much of information, how to create a village, what are the norms, what is meant to be the population. so many directives are there. So that is one of the reasons also that Srila Prabhupada spoke about establishing Varnashram colleges. Because in Varnashram colleges, which is meant to be for men, Varnashram colleges is the training where men receive, especially training in leadership. Because actually the first, the three basic sciences that are part of the Chaturvidya. So the last three actually. The first one is basic and giving the foundation with this proper understanding, unvixed philosophy. The other three sciences are meant to train individuals to actually to become leaders in society, because Trayi is the science of education for Brahmanas. Dandaniti of politics for the Kshatriya is the science of economics for the Vaishyas. So Prabhupada, he wanted that we make up curriculum for these three departments in particular. And of course, the rest of society, but in terms of what is meant to be the occupation, land, cow, agriculture-related activities, various kinds of traditional, what we call, what is it? Cottage industry, small cottage industry, how to make cloth, how to make buildings, so many different aspects are there. So in other words, wherever we are, we need to come in contact with those instructions given by Srila Prabhupada. Devotees need to meet together, and the more they understand how this is actually meant to be the norm, and how Prabhupada gave instructions which are found in this particular case as well, then devotees gradually, one of the recommendations we gave some time back is that when there are, let's say, a group of 10 householders who have been cultivating this understanding more and more, then they can come to a point where, okay, now we want, there's two ways. Either you join a village, existing village, or you start from scratch. That's what we did, like in Indonesia. We got the devotees to agree to form a community, and we got like 200 acres of land, and in this way the community started with 3 brahmacharis, and now there's like over 175 devotees there, right? So regardless of which way, we need to, devotees, for example, out of 10 householders, then they decide, okay, 2 householders will leave their situation and they will be supported by the other 8 houses for the next 2 years, so that they can learn and become more self-sufficient. And then slowly, gradually, others can follow. You know, that's one. I'm sure there are other ways, because initially, since we don't have the Vedic culture set up where kings would freely provide land, we have to buy land, and land is a big. Yeah.
And I think because I'm closer to real estate and things in Bangalore, Maharaj,
Right.
my understanding is because whenever the government needs money, especially now the present Karnataka government is Congress. Now the situation is like whenever these people need money and they're giving a lot of things for free just to win votes.
Yeah.
When they want money, just increasing the land prices. Even when small pieces of land is become so expensive,
Yes, yes.
I doubt in the upcoming days monthly salary of 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs in the next 5 years. I doubt he will be able to buy a simple house. It is next to close to impossible
Yes.
because he will be a slave for almost now, say for 20 years if he wants to buy a house of
Yes,
80
yes.
lakhs, 1 crore. So buying land is almost the economists have killed that option for the general.
It is a major problem, but it is not insurmountable. It is a major problem, but it is not insurmountable. And main thing is that devotees have to come together, and they have to see what may be possible, etc., like that. We have gone over our time, actually, so we can continue to discuss.
There's so many things.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Gaur Premanande.